Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thanks for tuning in again. I'm sorry I didn't put anything up last week. I didn't really have a bunch to put up, and I wasn't able to do a video Thursday morning. But I'm about to do some pruning out here. You can see I've already started all these Mexican sunflowers that had died back, but you can see them, they're starting to come back again. But yeah, I've been doing some pruning and some weeding out here, getting ready to plant. It's another cold day. It's in the 40s again right now, and the wind is really cold. And I hate being outside when it's cold like this. I cut the tomatoes down because they were dead. I hate coming out here when it's cold like this, but I gotta get stuff ready. I'm gonna be planting soon, and I'll show you some of the stuff that I'm gonna be planting in another video. But for now, I am going to prune, because I don't think we have, usually mid-February is the last time we have a frost, so I'm going to prune some of this stuff back really hard, and we will see what happens to it. I'm hoping that this strawberry tree is not a total goner, because it looks the worst out of everything. But like I've said before, trees are a lot, I'm going to take that whole thing off there. Trees are a lot hardier than you think. So a lot of times you prune them after something like this where you have a freeze, prune them back and they will come back. But the only concern I have is some of these are more tropical trees, like this one, like the strawberry tree is a tropical tree, and that may pose a problem, just because in their environment they wouldn't be getting any sort of freezes or frosts or anything like that. But let's see what happens. Hopefully it'll come back. This banana here is not dead. There's a new leaf coming out there, so I'm not really all that concerned. I'm not really all that concerned with pruning. A lot of times banana leaves, as you can see, they start to kind of hang down and then they'll fall, or I can cut them then. Like here's one here that I'll cut, and then they make their own mulch. But you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens, because some of these don't look very good. If these do not survive, well, I can tell, like I said, that one will survive because it's already got a new sprout coming out, a new leaf I should say, not sprout. And then there's one over there that's still got a green leaf. It was one of the smaller ones, one of the younger ones. It might survive. If they survive, then this whole thing will come back, you know, because it'll repopulate. But we'll see what happens. If this does not come back, I'm not getting this variety again. This is the ice cream banana. That's what I was told when I bought it, and I've had it for 3 or 4 years now, and I've never gotten it to produce fruit. So if it doesn't survive, I'll plant a different variety here. But the amount of water that comes out of these things when you cut it, but we'll see what happens. Look how tall these lemongrass seeds have gotten. I think these will be okay here. I may have to cut that back further down to where it was actually covered with leaves, but and then I'm gonna come over here and do some hard pruning to this guy. If you want to prune to stop growth, now is not the time to do it. Summertime is the time to do it. But right now I'm pruning to get all the dead weight off, and so that it can have room to come back. I'm not really all that worried about the mulberry. As you can see, it's not dead. It still has green on it. It'll come back. And mulberries love to be pruned, so usually when you prune a mulberry, I don't expect it this time because of how it got burned back. But usually when you prune a mulberry, you're going to get some more berries, because it just tends to do that. So you can see it's starting to, even from like a spot like this, it's starting to sprout another leaf, but I'm going to prune that off. If you want, like I've mentioned before, if you want to read something about pruning, I cannot remember the name of the author, but she has a book called Grow a Little Fruit Tree, and I highly recommend it. As it talks about, see, I'm going to take, well, since I've already made a cut right there, I'm going to take that whole thing off. Ugh, this is going to be hard to do with one hand. There we go. She talks about, it's called Grow a Little Fruit Tree because she talks about hard pruning your fruit trees to keep them small on purpose. And it actually helps with the tree health, surprisingly enough. It helps with fruit production. See, because people generally think, and I did too, people generally think that, if I want lots of fruit, I gotta have a gigantic tree. Well, that's not necessarily true. A lot of times people who have a gigantic tree, you can't get all the fruit off of it. So then the fruit falls and it just rots. And actually, I'm going to take this. Let's take it right there. It rots, and I don't like that coming out right there. I'm going to take that back. It can actually spread disease and stuff when it gets around because the fruit will fall to the ground and it'll get all around the base, and it can actually spread disease to the tree stumps, the tree roots, stuff like that. So you're actually better off to keep it well pruned and groomed and stuff like that. You'll get more fruit, and you'll have a healthier tree. I think I'm going to take this one here. I'm going to leave that as it is. And in the summer, because you will be surprised how fast a mulberry grows, in the summer I'm going to come back and probably do some hard pruning. And I mean hard pruning, where it's, I'm going to lower it. That way, first of all, it shapes out nicer. It doesn't get all scraggly, And then it also helps with the growth. My poor star fruit got nailed, but let's see if I'm just going to hard cut it. But a lot of people, and I was one of them to begin with, are afraid of pruning because they're afraid they're going to kill the tree. Like someone would tell me right now, "Oh, you just killed that tree." Well, no, I didn't. I didn't, for one thing, and if I did kill it, I can always plant another one. But trees come back from hard pruning. Like, let me give you an example. This is my Tice mulberry, and I cut this off so I could cover it. But you see this right there? It's not wanting to focus. That right there. That's a growth bud. It's gonna sprout from there. It's gonna sprout from there. It's gonna sprout from there. There's one on that side. There's one over here. It's gonna sprout back. So don't be afraid like what I'm about to do right here. I'm about to top this thing, this mango. I mean, look at it, it's all dead. And I don't want this thing, it's better to shape trees in the summer, because when you cut the trees in the summer, all of their sap and growth hormone and all that stuff is up in the tree. So when you cut that, you're cutting away some of that sap and growth hormone, so the tree doesn't grow back as much. Right now, all of the, well, I don't know as much about a mango, but most trees, especially ones that go dormant, like figs, my peach over here, stuff like that, most of the time, a lot of trees, the sap and stuff during the winter goes back down into the roots and waits there dormant, and it's protected. Then when it warms back up, it starts to send it back up, and that's when you get growth again. The leaves start to come back, the tree starts to grow again. But in any case, with those trees and stuff like that, if you cut it during the winter, all of the growth hormone and all the sap and all that stuff is down in the root ball, so it's not up here. So basically it's a dormant tree. When you cut it back in the winter, when it starts to warm up, all that sap comes back up, and so it starts to take off really fast again. So if you want a tree to grow vigorously, like when it warms up again, prune it in the winter. If you want to control a tree's height and size and growth and all that stuff, it's better to prune it in the summer, when all of the sap is all up in here, and you cut some of it away, so it loses some of its growth hormone. So unfortunately though, with these being burned like they are, I can't do that. But one of the things, and again, if this is a mango that I grew from a pit, if it dies, I have another one growing, but you can always get another one, plant another one. But all these dead leaves, it's not going to do anything, you know. They're not going to come back to life. They're dead. We'll see if this thing makes it, because again, it's a tropical, and tropicals don't like cold. But we'll see what happens. Trees are a lot more resilient than people give them credit for. So I'll leave it like that. Let's keep all the leaves and stuff here like a mulch layer. But yeah, so like, for example, this peach here, it's dormant. And I'll cut a little bit off, because I want to, you know, I want to keep it down to a certain size. But when I want to prune this to keep it a certain size and to get it to be a certain shape, like if you go to a peach orchard, they all, like, the stump comes up to about, you know, like right here, and then it bowls out really big, like a giant bowl or vase or something. That's how they prune it during the summer, to keep it, they shape it, and that way the fruit is more accessible and stuff like that. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. This Florida avocado may be a goner, but we'll cut it. I'm not sure, because that still looks like pretty fresh wood right there. So, but the moral of the story is, don't be afraid to prune trees. This Barbados cherry has seen better days, but you know, don't be afraid to prune trees. You're not going to kill it. I'd say most of the time, unless you just go, you know, hog wild and cut it almost, you know, to the ground, you're not going to kill it. Look at these giant trees. Like, if you have, let's say, a big oak tree or a pine tree or something in your yard, and you have a tree service come out and they cut it completely down, right? What happens if you don't remove the stump? Everyone knows if you don't remove the stump, it comes back. It could be just down to a stump and nothing else, and you think there's no way that thing is still alive. It's just nothing but a stump, a circular stump in the ground. And then all of a sudden, all these sprouts. Look at this. This is tough wood right here. This thing's been here for 3 or 4 years now, so. But all of a sudden, from that stump, that little dead circle in the ground, or what you thought was dead, all these little sprouts start coming back up. And these branches start popping back out. And, you know, all that sort of stuff. And if you don't grind that stump, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a tree again. So how can you, by just pruning a tree really hard, how can you kill it if you can cut the tree down to a stump and it will still come back? It won't. You won't kill it. It'll be fine. You know? And like I said, most trees will actually do better if you prune them and take care of them. Like when I read that book, you know, she gave the example also of trees like that are allowed to just get really big and stuff, and the fruit quality suffers. And actually, it can get too heavy for itself, and like it will produce so much fruit, because the fruit is the way the tree reproduces. It will produce so much fruit that it'll be too heavy, and it will, you know, it'll break its own branches, it'll kind of collapse itself, and you don't want that. So I'm not going to prune any of these figs. I'm not going to prune that mulberry. I'm going to leave the fig alone. Actually, let me get some of these branches I can take off. This thing is so crooked and I don't know how to fix it. I need to figure out how to straighten it up. Actually, I'm going to take that branch right there. But, you know, you figure out how to shape the tree. You shape your tree, you know. See, like, I don't like this coming way out here. Someone cut it. It'll be fine. Another thing is, if you have a grafted tree and you come down to the bottom here, I don't know if this one's grafted. It might be grafted about right there. Sorry, about right there. I can't tell if that's a graft line or not. If you see, I don't want this down here anyways. If you have a tree that you know is grafted and you can see the graft line, and you see anything growing, like let's just say right there is the graft line, and you notice branches coming out from down here, you're going to want to cut those. Because if it's growing below the graft line, it's going to be the rootstock, not the actual grafted variety. And a lot of times it means it's not going to be as good of a variety, because they take a hardy rootstock that doesn't produce very good fruit, and they graft on the variety of the fruit that you want. And so if you have branches popping up from underneath the graft line, that means it's coming from the rootstock, which means that it's either not going to bear fruit or it's not going to be good fruit. So cut those little the little suckers that come off that, cut those off. You don't want those. But David the Good also talks a lot about pruning. He's got a whole video about pruning, and here's my other banana here. I'm going to get rid of these dead leaves, at least down here. But the moral of the story, don't be afraid to prune, because pruning helps trees, and you're not going to kill it. It will be fine. When you take some of these leaves away and stuff, what you're going to do is you're going to make it concentrate on, I'm going to leave these just for now, because there is still some green, so it might be able to photosynthesize. You see there's a new leaf coming out, which means that this thing is fine. It did fine. It's not going to die. Once this new leaf comes out and some more new leaves come out, I'll probably come out and cut these dead ones off, after they finish completely dying. But don't be afraid to prune. Don't be afraid to prune. Pruning, this is my black sapote, my chocolate pudding fruit tree. It got burned and the leaves fell off. So, but don't be afraid to prune. You're not going to hurt the tree. It'll focus its growth on a different area and it'll come back. So if you have a tree that you don't like the shape of it, or you don't like how tall it's getting or something like that, prune it. Like, see, this one's coming up to the house. I don't want it touching my house. I don't want it on the house. So I'm going to, that's the little bamboo stick they had when this thing was an itty bitty tree. But let's just take it from right here, right now. See, and keep it away from my house. I don't want that growing onto my house. So I'm just gonna cut it. It's not a big deal. You know, don't be afraid that you're going to kill the tree just because you pruned it. Because majority of the time you haven't. You may think you have, and then you're going to see, you know, it's going to come shooting back, and it'll be healthier for doing it. So that's all for today. Thanks for coming along with me as I did some pruning that was pruning off because of the frost. Like I said, read that book, watch David the Good's videos about it. You'll learn more stuff about the proper times to prune to get the effects that you want. And I'm just walking over here as I'm talking because I'm going to check on my spearmint and stuff. But look at all these leaves. I need to take these as mulch. But yeah, spearmint looks good right there. You'll learn the proper times to do it to get the effects that you want, to get the results that you want. And yeah, don't be afraid to do it. That's all I can keep saying. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. It will not hurt the trees. It will be fine. So if you don't like the shape of a tree, don't like how tall it's getting, don't like, you know, if it's all kind of growing to one side, if there's too much fruit, you can't reach it, it's breaking on itself, that sort of stuff, get the pruning shears out and prune it. So that's all for today. You can see my passion vine took a hit, but I think it's going to be okay. Thanks for watching, and I will be back next week with a new video. Drop a comment and subscribe, and I appreciate everybody watching, and have a good week.